Hi there, my name's Sherry Forsyth. I'm a peak performance coach and I specialize in, amongst other things, bereavement. And that's what I'm speaking about today. I'm going to be speaking about actually how to move forward or move on after the major trauma of the loss has been negotiated. So many people, especially in Western society, will expect us to move on or to get over the loss. We expect it to be fixed and then happily move off into the sunset without a care in the world. If we feel we are unable to get over it, move on as we are being expected or required to do, if we are still battling to come to terms with this huge trauma and loss in our life, these comments that people make to us about having to get over the loss will make us feel actually that we're failing or that we're doing this whole thing of grieving wrongly. So I just want to re-emphasize that there is no right or wrong way of grieving. The only way for you is your way. Okay, what works for you might not work for others, but we need to listen to what our own bodies need in learning how to grieve. People also speak about needing closure, which means what exactly? For all too many people, closure actually means leaving grief behind or putting the past where it absolutely needs to stay, which is in the past. It sadly reflects how other people are wanting you to move on. They even actually to the extent of making you deny or ignore your grief in order to put on this false front of, look how happy I am. So the truth is that as humans, we never stop grieving, especially if it is somebody really, really special that we have lost. So just because somebody has moved far away from you or moved overseas, do we stop loving them? Absolutely not. So grief is the same. Just because somebody has died, we don't have to stop loving them. And according to Megan Devine, what we need to do in this process of moving forward is to tend to our grief, to tend to it. In other words, give attention to it, make a space for it, be gentle with ourselves as we are negotiating this very difficult journey. So what we need to know is that grief is not an illness that we need to get better from. It isn't something that needs to be fixed. But having said that, it's also not a place that we want to get stuck in. Intense grief is absolutely necessary. Initially, our whole body and mind are mourning the loss of that person that we've loved so much. But we can't stay there. It's too exhausting. We'll get burnt out within a minute. So what we need to do is realize that there are not only two options. It's not only an option of we are going to, either we're going to stay in this tremendous grief, this huge sadness, we're going to get locked in there, or the other option is that we forget about our loved one and move on. No, not so. Okay, there is a middle ground that is determined only by you. So that doesn't mean that when we move forward, we forget about our loved one. Absolutely not. We actually take them along with us. So we're moving forward with them alongside us. The love that we have for the person that has died never dies. And we take them along with us as we invest in our new normal. So that should be very comforting. We don't have to leave them behind. We don't have to forget about them. However, life will never go back to being what it was. We will be moving towards a new life. Because how can something so huge and profound as losing someone that we love so much leave us unchanged? We have to have some kind of, it has to have some kind of impact on us. So we must allow ourselves to be changed by grief, a little step at a time. It's all a work in progress. It's not a finished product of arriving at, okay, I'm better and now I'm not grieving anymore. It's not a problem to be fixed. It's just an experience that we can harness. In other words, the process of grieving, we can harness to weather us into new, profound, and very beautiful forms if we allow it. And as we gradually move forward, it's only one tiny little step at a time, so we don't have to see it as being overwhelming. And this process starts right from the beginning of our grieving process, or should I say the process of moving forward starts right from the beginning of our grieving process. It's not a sudden change in status. Okay, and I just want to re-emphasize the memory of our loved one walks alongside us as we are overcoming each new hurdle that grief is putting in our way. I like to think of it almost like a storm that's happening. You know, there's a massive storm, huge big storm when the death actually happens. And all we're doing then is just trying to keep our head above water. But once that huge initial storm leaves us, what happens is it comes around again and again and again to visit with us, to teach us new things, until eventually it blows itself out. This is also shown, the process of moving forward is shown in this book called Finding Inner Courage by Mark Nepo. I'm just going to read a short paragraph to you. There was a little boy. He and his mother were dealing with the loss of his father, her husband. He went silent in his grief for months. She grew concerned and brought him to a program called Children to Children. After weeks of more silence, the little boy picked up a play sword and told his mum to lie down. These were the first words since these were his first words since his father had died. He then thrust the sword at her and said, "You're dead." She lay there heartbroken, but kept quiet. After a time, he pulled the sword back and said, "You're alive." He kept repeating this, sword in, sword out, as his mother cried. Somehow, in his little boy wisdom, which defied words, he was practicing the journey back to life. The sword in, the sword out. That's what we actually are busy with as we gradually move forward in this process. So I'm asking you to give yourself the time, the space, the love, the gentleness as you tend to your grief. Megan Devine is the one who coined the term of tending to our grief, and experience it authentically as your own. Make it your own. Don't allow others to tell you what to do or how to do it. But it's important also to realize that time alone doesn't heal. It's what we do with the time, how actively we are experiencing the grief, how authentically we are allowing that pain to be felt. It also takes time to feel into the different layers of grief. And you need only go as deep as you need to go. Everybody's different. So there are a few TED Talks that are really valuable that I'd like to recommend to you. The first one is by Nora McInerney, okay, where she's saying we don't move on, we move forward. Okay, we move forward. The next TED Talk is by Nora Casey, and her main thrust of the talk is don't get stuck in the past. Beautiful as those memories are, we mustn't get stuck there. It's not healthy for us. And then lastly, Dr. Jeff Warburton is a psychologist, and he speaks about the loss of his brother and how we need to feel it authentically. We can't pretend it's not there and end up putting on all sorts of masks. It won't allow us to eventually be able to move forward. So I hope that those TED Talks will help you. I found them very valuable. If you have found other TED Talks valuable and you'd like to share them, please feel free to add them in the comment box. We always are looking for new information that can help someone. So as we make our way from that initial devastation of grief, what do we need? So very often we need fellow grievers because they can understand exactly what we are going through. So that doesn't have to be a support group, even though it can be, but we need to speak to people who can really understand what we are going through. It's a time actually of finding connection again in our lives, not only with those people who are grievers like we are, but in our normal relationships as well. Dr. Pauline Boss has a quote that says that sadness is treated with human connection. So that's what we're needing. We also need to clarify and redefine who we are. The new us is the culmination of all the lessons that we have learned in the grieving process. And they therefore will result in the changes to match the new person we are, the new needs that we might have, the new priorities we might have, whether they be big or small. So I'm going to ask you to allow the heaviness of grief to lift, but always acknowledging and continuing to love that person that we lost. We are looking for movement in the right direction. We're not looking for the final destination yet. Just one tiny step in the right direction for you, not in the right direction for what other people think. So we need to take a small step in the right direction for us. Okay, it's not that we're wanting to fix ourselves. We're not wanting to get better. We are just wanting to move in the right direction for us. So the following words should play an important role in our lives as we are moving towards, I don't want to say healing, as we are moving towards re-engagement. Companionship. We need acknowledgement of our loss. We're wanting to survive. We need kindness from others, to others, but also to ourselves. We need acceptance, connection, compassion, grace. We need all these and more. The pain won't be removed instantly. It is a gradual process as we move towards re-engaging and living really wholeheartedly, really living life, not just being a spectator, watching from the distance and every once in a while dipping into life, pretty much like a dragonfly does as it flies above water. We want to engage wholeheartedly. We want actually almost as a credit to our loved one to re-engage fully, to live properly and wholeheartedly. So in conclusion, we take our loved ones alongside us as we move towards embracing fully and wholeheartedly our new normal. And this will take as long as it takes. Be gentle, be authentic in this journey of tending to your grief. And don't let others hurry you or allow yourself to feel that you're doing it wrong. Trust yourself. I hope you found this video to be of benefit, and if you have, I ask you please to share it, join my YouTube channel, Follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And my main goal in doing these videos on grief is to blow the silence away from the fact that most of us don't speak about grief. We are left on our own to deal with it, and society actually encourages that. So we're wanting to blow the lid off the fact that we've always kept it silent. So please help me. I thank you as always for giving me your time.